Something happened in Malindi yesterday. If you were paying attention, you must have seen it. Not in the speeches, not in the slogans, not even in the crowd. ODM! But in one sentence. One sentence that may have exposed the biggest political deal that is being quietly cooked behind closed doors.
Shamjua ni nani? Nani? Nani?
A deal that will definitely change 2027. A deal that could make Deputy President Kindiki a political orphan while at the same time elevating one man, the coastal kingpin.
In the absence of alias and Joho, the narrative will be different.
If then this is all true, President William Ruto is playing a very dangerous game. A brilliant game, but a very dangerous one. Because this is not just about coastal politics. This is not even about ODM. This is about identity, power, and votes. A lot of votes. Let's talk about it. If you love this kind of content, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. Now let's get to the video. Yesterday was politically explosive. Edwin Sifuna and Linda Mwananchi were in Kisumu. Matiang'i was in Murang'a. Rigathi Gachagua was in Mombasa. ODM Linda Ground were in Malindi. Different venues, different messages. But one theme, 2027 has officially started.
Ile watu mnajifanya Ruto anaweza wapi? Unajua alikuwa anafunika watu macho, publicity na atiluo Nyanza Kisumu. Leo mmejionea. Huko kila mtu anasema one time.
You see, among all these events, Malindi may have carried the biggest clue because the ODM brigade in Malindi looked focused, very focused, not on opposition politics, not actually on attacking government, but one thing, power sharing. Real power, not appointments, not token positions, not handshakes, power at the very top.
Tukiingia katika mazungumzo, tutaingia kama equal partners. Na vitu vikiwekwa kwa meza, itakuwa ni 50-50.
And when ODM insiders tell you that they want 50% of the government, what they are really talking about is the deputy president seat.
Alias and John ufunguo for 2027 and it was also the key for 2032.
Kama kuna mtu hataki, Hassan Ali Joho yuataka. Ama yoeleweki hiyo.
For months now, people have believed that it is going to be Wanga who is going to be seeking for the deputy president to deputize William Ruto because she is energetic, she's ambitious, she's visible, she's politically sharp and a loyal ODM member. Everything pointed there, but politics changes very quickly and lately the noise has shifted.
Sisi deputy president mwaka 2027 anatoka kutoka kwa chama cha ODM na deputy president wetu sisi ni Hassan Ali.
Now the loudest whispers are about Joho, and yesterday, for the first time, Wanga herself appeared to publicly bless that idea.
Wale wakiwa na rais, ODM itakuwa na deputy president. Na sisi tukipata hiyo, tutaingia kwa kona kama wanachungwa. Joho anatosha, toshi!
That is not a small statement. That is not casual praise. That sounds like alignment. That sounds negotiated. That sounds agreed. Because politics in this level never happen accidentally. Nobody just wakes up and starts pushing such a big name.
Joho anatosha, toshi!
There must have been movements behind the curtain. Suddenly, last week's meeting at State House where ODM members and UDA members all gathered now starts to make sense. ODM leaders went in very noisy, talking about zoning, talking about power, talking about frustrations. Then suddenly there was silence, calm, no more public pressure, no more aggressive demands. Why? What changed? Were promises made? Were positions discussed? Was a deal struck? And if so, was Joho the chosen name? Now, here's where political math gets very serious. Some analysts believe that this is bigger than ODM, than the coast, than Joho himself. They believe that William Samoei Ruto is going to sell Joho to Kenya and completely different identity. Not as ODM Joho, not as Coastal Joho, but as the first serious Muslim deputy president contender. And politically, that is powerful, very powerful. Think about it. Since independence, Kenya has never had a Muslim president, neither a Muslim deputy president. Never. That creates symbolism. And symbolism moves votes, huge votes, because suddenly the message becomes, for the first time in history, one of your own is going to be very, very close to power. That message doesn't only land in Mombasa. It lands in Garissa, in Wajir, in Mandera, in Lamu, in Tana River, in Isiolo. That is a serious voting bloc. And then comes the bigger promise. You support him now, and in 2032, I'm going to support him to run for president.
Mimi muniangalie hivi. Iko siku mutaniita Rais Hassan Ali.
That is how coalitions are built, on aspirations, on representation, on political emotion.
Deputy President kutoka ODM na ni Hassan Ali. Hassan Ali.
And nobody weaponizes political emotions better than William Samoei Ruto.
I, William Samoei Ruto, on behalf of Kenya Kwanza Alliance, do hereby commit to provide mothers of newborn babies with diapers for their children for a minimum of 3 months paid for by the government of Kenya.
Just look at his political history. In 2022, it was dynasties versus hustlers, rich versus poor, elite versus ordinary mwananchi. The narrative worked perfectly. Now, during his presidency, he has repeatedly positioned himself as the champion for marginalized communities.
Wapi makofi ya kumpigia rais? Na tunaiona pale launch of the National Policy on Ethnic Minorities and Marginalized Communities. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais.
Making groups feel seen, feel chosen, feel special. That is his strength, and Joho could fit perfectly into that playbook. Not merely as the deputy president, but as a message, as a symbol, as a strategic bait. And suddenly, Ruto rebuilds a coalition, not around Mount Kenya, and not around just the Rift Valley, but around fresh identity politics. That is dangerous politics, and it's also very effective.
Hassan Ali Joho amewahi kuwa mbunge, akawa naibu wa waziri, akawa waziri. Mtoto amezaliwa kutoka umaskini, akaweza kujikuza, ametoka geto, akaweza kupanda. Alikuwa hafai na akaitwa drug dealer, Mungu akamuinua. Aliambiwa ni B+, Mungu akamuinua. Sisi kwa mtazamo wetu tunasema ni Hassan Ali. Mombasa imeamua, case closed.
Which leaves us to a very uncomfortable question. Where does this leave Kithure Kindiki? Politically, he looks very exposed because the biggest criticism around him is very simple. He doesn't command any votes. He doesn't electrify crowds. He doesn't carry regional political firepower.
Ati mtu ya kusaidia Kasongo ile ametafuta. Akisimama ni fire, si fire.
In an election like the one for 2027, Ruto may decide loyalty is not enough. He may want numbers, cold, hard numbers. And if advisors tell him that Joho is the right man for the job, then politics becomes brutal because politics has no permanent seats, only permanent interest. And if replacing Kindiki increases electoral survival, many believe that Ruto is going to consider it. And that is just the brutal, honest truth about power. But there is a problem. Kenya is largely a Christian nation, and we all know that we vote along tribal lines. Never have we ever voted along religious lines. So yes, this move could expand votes, but it could also fracture Kenya further. That is the gamble. Huge reward, huge risk. Classic Ruto politics.
So help me, God.
The question now is very simple. Was Malindi just another rally, or did Kenya witness the soft launch of a new ticket? Not the one for Ruto Kindiki, but perhaps Ruto Joho for 2027. If that's the plan, then the ground beneath Kenyan politics has already started shaking, and Kindiki is soon to become a political orphan. Subscribe.